So good morning and welcome. I'm Jack Gardner. I'm president of the Jon Stewart Company. On behalf of JSCO and our development partners, Related California, San Francisco Housing Development Corporation, and Ridgepoint Nonprofit Housing Corporation, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to the grand reopening of Hunters Point East West and Westbrook. Yeah, give it up. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? I hear you breathing. Hunters Point East West and Westbrook, totaling 439 affordable housing units, are two of the city's rental assistance demonstration, or RAD, projects, which the overall program consisted of transferring 29 of the San Francisco Housing Authority's properties to local nonprofit and private housing organizations for recapitalization, renovation, and private management. More detailed information is available if you're interested. This mammoth citywide RAD program, which included almost 3,500 units of affordable housing throughout San Francisco, required the collaboration of a host of public agencies, developers, consultants, contractors, funders, and most importantly, the residents of Hunters Point East West and Westbrook themselves. The program demonstrates the city's commitment to leaving none of its residents behind, and we at Jon Stewart Company are very proud to have been part of it. None of this would have been possible without the vision and leadership of our local elected and appointed officials, many of whom are here today, and we'll do some shout outs a little bit later. Thank you for celebrating with us. Let's get started though. It gives me special pleasure to introduce our first speaker. I'll tease you a little bit here, see if you can figure out who that would be. She's a native San Franciscan, thank you. A former redevelopment agency and fire department commissioner, former executive director of the African American Art and Culture Complex in the Western Addition, former supervisor of District 5 and president of the Board of Supervisors, you might be getting it, but presently our current and future mayor. So a steadfast champion of affordable housing, community empowerment, and the creation of a more just and equitable San Francisco for all. Great pleasure to bring to the stage our very own Mayor London Breed. Mayor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am really excited to be here today because this is a long time coming. When we first set out on a path to just re-envision public housing throughout San Francisco, it wasn't easy. I remember when I first became a member of the Board of Supervisors and I went to our mayor, Ed Lee, and talked to him about my priorities, I made it clear that public housing was my #1 priority. And he supported those efforts. And in fact, I grew up in Plaza East in the Western Addition Fillmore community, where I lived in public housing for over 20 years of my life. And those conditions were very challenging. It wasn't just, sadly, the poverty and the violence that existed in my neighborhood. It was also the actual physical conditions of where I lived. The mold, the bathroom that basically had a number of challenges. We never even had a shower in the public housing unit that I lived in. The roaches, the lack of support that we got from our facilities crew to actually make the kinds of repairs where we could live in a place that was safe and live in a place that was the way that it should be for any resident of this amazing city. And it was important to me that we made a change in San Francisco because the same conditions that I lived in are sadly some of the same conditions that still exist in public housing today. And so we set down this course to try and make changes. And no, we didn't have the resources completely to, basically start all over from scratch. But we did have an opportunity through the RAD program, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, to really make investments now so that we can change the conditions of where people live now. That was so important. There were people who were concerned, including the residents, who were skeptical about whether or not what happened in the Fillmore would happen in the Bayview Hunters Point community. And I, of course, was concerned about that too, because in fact, the public housing development that I lived in had 300 units. And after it was rebuilt through Hope 6, which was a whole nother program before Hope SF, there were only 200 units built. So clearly, everyone was not coming back. And that's why when I first started as a commissioner on the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency Commission, and we set out on our path to try and rebuild Double Rock and other places, it was important to me that we did it differently than we did in the past, so that residents played a critical role in not only deciding, what fixtures and windows and how they wanted their community to be, but they remained a part of their communities. And so that's exactly what we did. It did require a lot of patience and moving around and a number of things. And yes, again, I know that people were a little uncertain as to whether or not we would get this project done, because promises had been made over the years and promises not kept. But today, a promise is kept. 439 units of affordable housing for people, for families, for this amazing community. And through the RAB program, we have already been able to rehabilitate over 3,000 public housing units in San Francisco. No longer are we going to treat our residents who happen to live in public housing differently than we treat everyone else. And that's why this investment is so important. Not only in rehabilitating something as simple as making sure that the windows can open, that the heater is working, that the showers are working, that there isn't an opportunity for mold or other things to, impact the living conditions, but free Wi-Fi. Free Wi-Fi for all of the residents here so that folks have access to do job searches, housing searches, or anything else that anyone else could do in our great city. So I am just really happy and excited to be here, because this is a new day in San Francisco. And part of what my goal is to not only change the physical conditions of our community, but to make sure that we take care of these communities and we take care of each other. Because we are one community, we're one San Francisco. And sadly, we have lost so much over the years due to violence, due to hopelessness and frustration. And part of my commitment to communities all over the San Francisco that feel neglected, that feel like they are forgotten, that feel like they're not necessarily a part of San Francisco, is that I'm coming to your neighborhood. I'm coming to make sure that we make the right kinds of investments, that we provide job opportunities or opportunities for you to start your own businesses, that we make sure that we are taking care of kids in this community. In fact, our investments in our public school system has been one that's unprecedented. Over $80 million of investments, including additional teacher stipends, so that we can focus on teacher retention in schools like Thurgood Marshall and Willie Brown and other schools that serve the Bayview Hunters Point community. Making sure when our kids are dealing with trauma that we have mental health experts in our public schools. And my commitment is to make sure that there are wellness centers in every public school in San Francisco. It starts with our kids. It starts with taking care of each other. It starts with developing a new generation of hope for San Francisco. And so this project is so much more than just rehabilitating units. It's really changing a community and making things better now and for the future. It starts with us, and we're in this together, and we're going to get there one step at a time. And I want to thank the John Stewart Company, the Mayor's Office of Housing, Bank of America, and who else was a part of this project? Related. Thank you. It means a lot to have incredible partners. We don't do this work alone. But most importantly, I want to thank the people who live here, who trusted us to make this happen, who work with us every step of the way. It means a lot to have the support and trust of a community in order to get things done. And that's exactly what we were able to accomplish through this amazing project together. So congratulations, and this is just the beginning of, I know, more that's yet to come. Thank you.
That's what I'm talking about. Mayor, you're so good at that. You're just flying without notes. I'm hanging on to these things for dear life. So we do the work, but that's the leadership that gets it done. And thank you also for the $23 million in local financing and rent subsidies that made this effort possible, and your unwavering support for affordable housing and ending homelessness in our city. I'm about to do it, so I'll see how we're doing. We're okay. But that's what I was going to say. Most recently, the leadership in the form of the proposed $600 million housing bond Prop A, which we are going to pass in November, okay? So everybody. Thanks also, and a shout out to our current supervisor, Shaman Walton, for his ongoing leadership around the housing, education, and safety issues here in District 10. Thank you, Supervisor Walton. Our next speaker is Bill Whitty, Chairman and CEO of Related California, one of California's largest developers of affordable and mixed-income housing. Since founding Related California 30 years ago, Bill has overseen the development of 16,000 residences, including over 12,000 affordable housing units, and he currently has almost 5,000 more units in pre-development. He is a busy guy. Earlier this year, Related also completed the rehab of another local RAD cluster, 300-plus units in the Western Addition. A former director of the Mayor's Office of Housing under then-Mayor Dianne Feinstein, it's my pleasure to invite my friend and colleague Bill Whitty up to say a few things. Bill. Sir.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be involved with a company, John Stewart Company, who has not only been a stalwart provider of affordable housing for many years, but are close friends of mine. And I'm particularly pleased that John Stewart is here because I'm no longer the oldest person in the room. So, cheap shot, sorry. I have to tell you, I've been involved in affordable housing in the public and private sector for 40 years. And I'm pretty familiar with what's going on around the country. There is no mayor in the United States who has spent more energy and effort to ensure that public housing is given new life and upgraded and become part of the community than Mayor Breed. And we should acknowledge that. It doesn't get the attention that it should. And you heard why, but we don't read about that so much. And it's really a story that needs to be told. I just want to say that this is great. I appreciate the residents' patience in letting this process unfold. But we're expect to be judged not just by how it is today, but how with Jack and David Sobel at SFHDC, how we are as long-term partners and owners. So the story is, as the mayor said, is just beginning. And I can assure you that it will remain a good story. And this housing, just so everybody's clear, is permanently affordable. It's not just affordable for 10 years or 20 years. This will always be high-quality, affordable housing. So I want to thank some people who were operating in the weeds to make this all happen, starting with, under the mayor's guidance, the Mayor's Office of Housing, Dan Abrams and his staff, Lydia Eli, Joan McNamara, Erin Carson, and Helen Hale, who have been involved in all of these around the city. Mayor's Office of Housing technically didn't used to be involved in public housing. They've essentially taken over the task and done, I think, a remarkable job under the guidance of the mayor. The contractors who spent a lot of time and energy to make sure that we got the rehabilitation right. Nibby Brothers, I know Bob Nibby is here, Cahill Construction, who worked on East-West, deserve a lot of credit. See, even they got acknowledged by somebody else. Mimi Sullivan of Saida Sullivan, who's the architect. I mean, somebody, while you couldn't change the buildings that much, a lot of time and effort was spent on designing the interior of the building. So as the mayor said, these would be quality, market rate quality units, not just for the short term, but for the long term. And then our own staff at Related, our project manager, Andrew Skofar, who is in the back, Ann Silverberg, who runs our Northern California Affordable Group. I just want to thank everybody who made this possible. And like I said, this isn't the last you're going to see or hear from us. And I expect to hear from you if you think that there's something that warrants attention. And finally, another Prop A plug. Don't just clap, you got to vote. Show up and vote for Prop A. Thank you.
Show up and vote, Bill, because I think your call to me included a very large check involved as well. So, okay. Donate as well. He left that part out, but feel free. So, Bill, I hate to break it to you, though. When John arrived, you were not only not the oldest guy here, but not quite the funniest guy here anymore either. So, John, we're going to give credit where it's due. Anyway, thank you, Bill. As always, very well said. Next up is another of our co-developers and the lead provider of supportive services for our residents here at Hunters Point East West and Westbrook. David Sobel is CEO of the San Francisco Housing Development Corporation, a 31-year-old community-based nonprofit located here in Bayview, Hunters Point. Over the past 6 years, David has assembled an outstanding board of directors and staff who've greatly enhanced SFHDC's programming and services. Under his leadership, the organization has grown from 4 people to a staff of 30, which provides housing development preservation, financial empowerment, counseling, supportive services, economic development opportunities to over 5,000 low and moderate income residents every year. Also well known, at least to me, as an accomplished jazz, blues, and rock keyboardist, but you're going to have to go to their annual gala to hear that. Please help me welcome David Sobel to the dais. David.
By the way, the board of directors did my performance review last night. It would have been great if you were there. So, good morning, everybody. SFHDC is indeed proud to have partnered with such an auspicious team that others are mentioning in name, so I will save some time and not repeat everything. It has been extremely gratifying to take part in and witness a transformation of extremely dilapidated housing, turning it into safe, comfortable homes for families that remain affordable in perpetuity. But it is also about more than just the housing here, right? And the city had the great foresight to ensure that there was workforce development and on-site service connection to ensure that residents literally at their doorstep have access to other resources. We are very proud to have partnered with Hunters Point Family, our workforce development partner, Dev Mission on the STEM program that we have initiated across the sites here, all of whom are doing fantastic work and enhancing what resources are available to residents every day. I want to call out our services team, an amazing group of people, some of whom are here today, and even if they're not, they deserve some recognition. So Taylor Booker, Channing Colbert, Latrice Manuel, Malik Ali, Rhonda Haley, Lakeisha Henry, and Louise Celestine. You guys are fantastic. You show up every day doing very challenging work and being a big support to residents. And we cannot talk about services without acknowledging Helen Hale and Tony Autry of MOHCD, who every day and every week and every month are there pushing, guiding, and supporting our services programs as they should. So thank you for that. And finally, these past 5 years are not about all of us who are up here speaking today. It's about the residents who endured decades of deplorable conditions. So 5 years of hard work is great, but the people that live here suffer through much longer hardships, and that's what this project is really about. Developing community, bringing on-site services, engaging with residents, having a long-term vision with our city partners, with everybody that's up here, with all the residents. That has been the most rewarding part. and we've really appreciated the positive impact of walking hand in hand with residents every day, learning from them, they hold us accountable, and we've appreciated that as well. At the very beginning of this project, 5 years ago or so, when we went to our initial meetings, the residents said, this is a ploy to kick us out. Well, it wasn't. They said, you're going to raise all of our rents, and we didn't. And they said, you're not really going to renovate these buildings, and we did. You're not really going to have services on site. We are. So, as the mayor said, this is a promise kept. SFHDC was founded to help people stay in San Francisco, to remain in their homes, their communities, their schools, their businesses, their congregations. And that is what this project is about as well. So thank you for all of your support all around, the resident leadership especially. We've enjoyed working with you, and I know we're going to hear from Renee, one of the resident leaders. So thank you all. It's our pleasure to be here with you today.
Well said. It really does make one think that how, while certain leaders in Washington seem to be doing their best to pull our country apart, here in San Francisco, we are doing our best to re-knit these properties into the fabric of our communities and our neighborhoods. We are doing our best to now bring the San Francisco Housing Authority itself more directly into the family of city agencies that work closely with MOHCD and the other agencies at the city to provide affordable housing. And the kind of work we do here, as David just so eloquently articulated, to just bring people together, reintegrate things, and really fight back against the forces that are trying to pull us all apart. So thank you, David. Well said. And while it probably goes without saying, so that's when I say it anyway, none of this can happen without money, lots of it. And for that, we in the city turn to Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. Bank of America has been integral to the success of the citywide RAD program, providing, well, let Liz talk about the details, but over $750 million in debt and equity for the overall program. Here at Hunters Point East West and Westbrook alone, B of A provided over $150 million in construction financing and $120 million in tax credit equity, as well as funding for resident services during construction. So to paraphrase a famous bank robber when asked why he robbed banks, I'll just say we went to Bank of America for funding because that's where the money was. And they were ready to put it to good use. Or to paraphrase Ilani, where's the money at? That's where I'm going. Okay, I didn't get that quite right, but you can school me a little later. No, don't beatbox it? Okay, I'm all good. No, okay, it's all good. Okay, sorry. I get a little carried away sometimes. Anyway, back to the script. It brings me great pride to introduce a proud resident of San Francisco herself, Bank of America's San Francisco and East Bay Market Executive, Liz Minnick. Liz?
All right, these are always hard acts to follow, but thank you so much for having us today. Bank of America was founded in this amazing city in 1904. 2 years after, we had one of our largest earthquakes with the 1906 quake, and Bank of America Bank of Italy at the time, actually, spent most of our resources getting people back in their homes. Housing has always been integral to what we do, and that's when the call to action with SFRAD and rehabilitating the 3,500 units around our city came. We were so honored and delighted to be able to provide actually $2.2 billion. Yes, so $2.2 billion in financing for the San Francisco RAD program. As been said, this is all about the residences. This is ensuring that people are able to be in the homes that everyone deserves. So again, thank you so much for having us today. I'll continue with the thanks for our great partners, Related and John Stewart and San Francisco Housing Development, our wonderful Bank of America teams that have worked tirelessly over the last 6-7 years to get this done. Thank you so much. And again, Mayor Breed, we couldn't do this without your leadership. Thank you.
$2 billion just doesn't go as far as it used to. But it adds up. Okay, thank you, Liz. Well, as I mentioned earlier, really, and as many people have affirmed here on the stage, The engagement and support of our residents was absolutely crucial to our success. I'd therefore like to acknowledge quickly and thank all the officers for our 3 tenant associations at the 3 different sites, many of whom are with us here today. I'm just going to run through some names quickly to say thank you. Susie McAllister, I saw you here. There's Susie. Renisha Rayner. I'm just going to, there we are. Elise Miner, Greta Ellis, and Ivan Sepulona. Those are all from the Hunters Point East Tenant Association. From the West, we have Joe Nayumalalega. I'm just going to nail it. Ronald Anderson and Donald Roan. And from Westbrook itself, we have Renee Magdagal, who we're going to be, Mangdangal? I'm not even close. Yeah, okay. She was going to be speaking. This is where it gets tough. Fia Papalagi Ugapo. Nailed, right? Okay. Colsey Vea, Michelle Carrington, and thank God, Linda Montoya. Okay, I can do that. Thank you all. It takes a lot of work. You're volunteers. You're out there. You're helping the residents organize and bring the issues forward to us. You're helping keep us honest and committed and engaged. That we appreciate the partnership that represents. And speaking on behalf of the residents today is Renee, as I mentioned earlier. We'll leave it at that. President of the Westbrook Tenant Association. She's a passionate community leader who encourages and assists residents in advocating for their own best interests. Born in the Bay Area to an Afro-Filipino father and a Latina mother, she takes great pride in engaging and helping her community, understands the challenges of the residents, has a strong commitment to educational values, and her skills and compassion make her both a voice and a beacon of hope for the residents of Hunters Point East, West, and Westbrook. It is my pleasure to have Renee Mangdangal to the stage. Renee.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Thank you, London Breed. I just want to thank SFHDC, Related, John Stewart Company, of course, my tenant association. Where are you? I don't see you. Oh, there you go. Happy birthday, Lissy. Yesterday was my birthday, 9/11. Anyways, I'm kind of nervous. I'm not much of a speaker. But anyway, yeah, this building came a long way. I come from the peninsula, and when I came in here, it was like pulling teeth. I did not want to move here, but I did. Made the best out of it. I became a community leader in Hunters Point West with Marlene Harris. She had hired me to be event planner and personal chef for all 3 sites. And then I met Hunters Point East and, of course, Westbrook residents at that time. I just want to thank everybody. Thank you.
You're following the sage advice of Franklin Delano Roosevelt to be sincere, be brief, and be seated. So, well done. You're going to go far in politics. Anyway, really, this is short and sweet. We want to spend time listening to some more music, touring apartments, having some food, breaking bread together. So I just want to thank again all the distinguished speakers. I want to do a special shout out to our technology program partners for the Wi-Fi, the training, et cetera, here at the site. It includes the city's Department of Technology, Monkey Brains, Dev Mission, who's been mentioned, the Community Tech Network, Microsoft, you've heard of them, Adobe, and KMEL. They all really pitched in on the technology side. We appreciate it. There are so many people, companies, and public agencies that have contributed their time and energy and hard work to making these properties a success. I wish I had time to recognize them all. I can't. Time is short. I'm going to name a few, sort of speed recognition here. Our architects, Saida Sullivan Design Partners, our general contractors, Nibby Brothers and Cahill Construction, did an amazing job renovating and breathing new life into these communities. So thank you. I'm going to repeat a few thanks that came up earlier, but from the city and the county of San Francisco, thanks Helen Hale, Olson Lee, Kate Hartley, Dan Adams, Tony Autry, Lydia Ely. from the John Stewart Company itself. I wanted just to shout out our founder and chairman, John Stewart himself, Margaret Miller, Dan Levine, Don Lusty, Jenny Collins, and our former project manager who did a lot of the heavy lifting up here, Adam Levine, who came all the way from the East Bay to see the fruits of his labors. See, we made it happen. I want to say hi to Devin Richardson from SFHDC, Devin, Larry Hollingsworth, who couldn't be here, from Ridgepoint, from Bank of America, not just Liz, but Rob Reinhart, Heidi Rachiria, Lawrence Wang, Raji Narayana, and Adam Cray. Thanks to Michael Minkus, Sunil Gupta, and Jonathan Noble, you know who you are. And thanks to all the other people who contributed their time and energy to this impressive effort. So that's it. Thanks for coming. Please stay for food in the community room, tours of apartments, more music. So if I could just get the speakers all to